I got it. Here we go.
Oh, superb.
Here we
I'll
are.
message him on Facebook.
And we are live Wednesday night with those guys. Sponsored by
Those
guys.
Sorry, I was a bit out of timing then.
That's all right. How you doing there, Paul?
Yeah.
And everyone, we're here today with Ryan. I'm not. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Ryan. Latourette.
Latourette, you got it.
Thank you. We're here talking about the aerial trespass case in the state of Louisiana, and we want to see where this is going. And we have this gentleman here tonight to talk about this. Did you get Lawrence? Sean?
Yeah, I sent him a message. He's in the chat as well, so hopefully he should be on his way.
Well, Ryan, from my understanding, this is something that has been, it's been going on for quite some time. This incident actually happened back in April of 2018.
Yeah.
Where is the case right now, and as far as everything is going?
So let me kind of give you the nutshell of what's going on. So
WTF.
There's Lawrence. So back in April of 2018, so we're talking 2 years ago now, we had an individual who had just purchased a brand new drone, an Inspire 1 at that. And he chose to fly it from his yard. He wanted to see how fast it would go. He wanted to kind of get a feel for it. So he took it up in the air, got it between 350 to 400 feet, and took it out about 1,500 feet. When he did so, he was going about 35 to 40 miles an hour. We have all the flight logs for this, by the way. And so he just raced it out there and raced it right back.
Right.
In doing so, now he's in Ruston, Louisiana, which is very rural. We're talking the sticks. And so as he did that, he was able to traverse that area, but doing so, he inadvertently crossed over one portion of a wooded area of the next door neighbor's property.
Okay.
That next door neighbor happened to be a sheriff's deputy. The sheriff's deputy took offense to that, believed that he was trespassing, and confronted him. And he said, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I figured that I was not over your property. And I'm going to try to make sure that that doesn't happen again." Now, as drone operators, we know that's perfectly legal. Airspace is under the jurisdiction of the FAA, and it shouldn't be a problem. Well, a couple more flights happened as well, and there was a confrontation where the police officer, again, did not like that it was flying in the neighborhood, so to speak, even though it was not over his property at that point. And again, each of the flights was 350 to 400 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So the police officer arranged for one of his departmental buddies to go and make an arrest of Mr. Benson. James Benson is the individual.
Okay.
At that point, the charges, I should say, he was arrested, he was kept in jail, he was detained for quite some time before he was finally released. And then at that point, they determined that, hey, we need to figure out, do we charge this guy? And every single prosecutor who was shown the case said, no, there's nothing here. We aren't going to prosecute. And 2 years, almost 2 years into after the event took place, the state of Louisiana State Attorney General decided, I'm going to prosecute this case. And that's significant in two forms. One, the charges could only be attempted for a period of 2 years. They had a statute of limitations of 2 years. Okay. So he had to get that done in that time. And then the other piece is every other prosecutor had turned their nose at it. So now we have the state attorney general looking specifically at this case and thinking, hey, I need a way to enforce drone laws without having, I got to hang up on that one, sorry. I need a way to enforce drone laws for aerial trespass that nobody else is going to do. And if I can do that, it's going to hit the nation like wildfire, and I'll have case law on my side. So we have a real problem here in terms of everybody throughout the country. If you're going to fly at that level, even at 350 to 400 feet, they're going to start to look at Louisiana and say, hey, wait a minute, this guy got prosecuted and we can do the same thing in our state. The statute itself is kind of interesting. It has two things. One, it says you're not eligible for trespass if you are flying by the FAA rules, number one. And the other is if you are doing surveillance, then you are in problem with that rule. So the prosecution had to do two things. They had to say, one, here's all the reasons that you were not in compliance with FAA regulations. And then two, here's how you actually surveilled your neighbor. The case did go to trial. They threw everything at them that they could. And probably the most significant piece was to say, you were not in tandem with FAA regulations because you flew beyond line of sight. They had the Louisiana State Police come in and say, there is no way that you can see an Inspire 1 at anything greater than 800 feet. They had this, they had the city police come in and say, there's no way that you can see any drone beyond 400 feet. And so that became a problem.
You
know,
well, what I think his only issue was that he actually flew over this deputy's property. I don't know how you can legally trespass in airspace. I mean, I'm here in New York, and I understand it here where we have things like the UN and a lot of no-fly zones where we can't because of special locations. That I understand. If I flew over the UN, yeah, I understand you could hit me with aerial trespass.
Yeah.
But to flying over trees in someone's yard, or you because the main thing is where he actually took off from was his own property. So I'm a little confused on how they just. I think it's gang up.
It's important as well to bear in mind, if I'm correct, the backstory is that there was historic beef between the two parties as well. Right. So we are talking about neighbors who have fallen out with each other on various occasions.
To be honest,
this was a continuance.
I've been like jumping and screaming inside while he's saying all of this, because unless him and his neighbor had some kind of issue, and it's usually over property lines and your dog getting into my yard, something really stupid, he had to be a real knucklehead to want to go through with all of this. I mean, or jealous that he had a drone and the officer didn't. I don't know what the case is, but it's so crazy the way the events have come through. And like you said, Ryan, there's a very good chance neighbors very close by can say, no, you can't fly over my house. I want him arrested for flying over my house.
Right, that's a big problem, because if one does it and gets away with it, everyone is going to start doing it and trying to get away with that.
Yeah. And I think we're already seeing this. And Sean just had another person on here last week, I think it was, right? Benjamin Dodson, who flew at one of the rallies in St. Louis, wasn't it? Or no, Nashville, sorry. So he flew at Nashville. And he flew over the tops of buildings, right? He launched from his property. He completely flew over the tops of his buildings, and yet he was arrested and ticketed for trespassing. And so we're already seeing those little tentacles of this case start to get out to other states, and it's very concerning.
Exactly. And as much as the drone community has a lot of supporters out there and a lot of videos out there saying, hey, we can't allow this to happen. What's interesting actually is there's a lot of there's a growing anti-community as well. Ken Heron only today put up on his Instagram a comment from someone saying, to his show last week, where he actually had a guest on whose drone was shot out of the sky, and the commenter was saying that we need to have a Supreme Court, ruling against drones to stop the privacy issues, etc. So there's a very big and growing group of people against the hobby as well, which is what we have to be very careful of.
Well, that's why I've always said that this is something that I believe was allowed to fester by the FAA. The FAA did nothing to stop this climate, and this is why this is going to continue. And now we're looking to bring in remote ID. I don't see how this is going to get better. Yes, Lauren. You're muted.
Can't hear you, Lawrence.
Lawrence, you're muted.
You're still muted, Lawrence.
Can't hear us.
Oh, stupid me. Sorry.
You were on a roll, though.
Not to diverse from the subject.
We were still interested.
Lynn in the chat wants to know, and this is for people who out there want to know also. So just how high above our homes / property do we own?
You don't own any of it.
Actually, you do. And this is kind of the specialty, right? There was a case back in 1946. It's called the Cosby versus U.S. case. Now, what happened in that? Prior to that case, all of the airspace above your property as a landowner, you owned. That was it. If you bought a piece of property, you legally owned everything.
Oh, now, wait, for infinity. Yes. Yep.
To infinity, up to the heavens. Now, what happened in that case? The U.S. government had gone in, and they purchased a property next to a chicken farmer, and they put in an airstrip to launch B-52 bombers.
Wow!
Those B-52 bombers flew day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they flew as low as 83 feet above this chicken farmer's property. Now, you can imagine. The sound alone is going to keep you up at night. Yeah. It's going to be distressing. All his chickens were dying, right? His wife's not getting sleep.
Scaring the hell out of them.
Exactly. So this chicken farmer decided, hey, enough's enough. I'm going to go chase after the government for this. And he hired a very smart lawyer. And that lawyer sued on the grounds of the takings clause of the Constitution. When you talk about the takings clause, think of it as eminent domain. So here he was saying, look, you as U.S. government chose to buy this property, but you didn't use eminent domain to buy my property. And by doing that, you tried to skip reimbursing me for my property and using my property instead. And the court said, absolutely, we understand that. And so they said, look, we throw out this notion that an owner can own both the land and up to the heavens. But because we understand that airplanes fly in the sky, we are not in an environment where we can just say, oh, you can't fly over this piece of property because somebody owns it. So they threw out the notion that you owned up to the heavens and instead said, oh, the airspace is public domain. However, they said, look, a property owner does own at least some portion of the airspace above their house or above their property. What they did not do is specify an exact height as to when that would end, right? So they said, whatever's your usable space. And that could mean the tops of your treetops, right? Or it could mean, hey, I've got a 1,000-foot building in New York. Well, you can't say, well, I'm going to cap it at your treetops. No, you got to go up to 1,000 feet and then probably some beyond. So we don't yet have any case law that says
nothing that defines
own up to a certain thing, right? And that's where we're at.
Well, see, with that being the case, we'll never solve that because now, after what you just mentioned, everyone in New York City who owns a home in the city of Queens has an argument about every single plane taking off from either LaGuardia or Kennedy Airport now.
And that is a challenge, right? Now, there's a couple other cases that we have to consider. One is Florida versus Riley, and the other is Giancola versus West Virginia, Department of Public Safety. And those started to put caps on where that airspace ends for a homeowner and where it begins for public domain. So in the Florida case, Florida versus Riley, it was a weed grower. It's always a weed grower, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had weed that was growing in his greenhouse, and a police helicopter was flying around, and they were spotting inside the greenhouse, seeing a little, the peak of the roof, and they could see the weed in there, and they said, we're going to arrest this guy for illegal drugs. And in that case, Riley said, well, wait a minute, you were in the curtilage of my property, so that arrest is illegal because you were invading my property, invading my privacy by looking. And they said, well, wait a minute, this helicopter was at 400 feet. They could clearly see with, just their naked eye. And so they said, no, you were there. The police were fine at 400 feet. That is public domain. So now we have it. Boom, we're coming down, right? The next one is Giancola. Again, weed, go figure. Again, a helicopter coming in. This time the helicopter got down to the tops of the trees such that it's battering all the trees. All the leaves are falling off and everything. Right. And they're able to see the guy as he's covering up his plants, right? And they go and track him and arrest him. And at that point, again, the court said, no, the helicopter is completely legal. It was in national airspace, public domain. And that was, again, only at the tops of the trees. So it could be 150 feet, 100 feet, someplace in there.
In answer to all of this, once again, the FAA is supposed to be in charge, but yet they still leave local jurisdiction down to local municipalities, which have no freaking clue. In other words, I'm like screaming in my head because there's so much I want to say, and I'm trying to behave today. But I own property. Just hypothetically, I own property, and my town says that the airspace above your home is limited. Well, for one, limited to what?
Zoning.
For two, if I flew drones, am I limited to 400 feet above my home?
Nope.
I could see that as being legal, but there's
let me try to answer your question, Lawrence. I know for a fact, I used to be registered deeds. Okay. And your zoning ordinances tell you what you can do with your property, how high you can go, how many feet above the ground you can go. You can't put a 600-foot story building on your residential property because zoning doesn't allow it. Even though you own the property, doesn't allow it.
And the FAA actually gets involved in that too, where if you want to put any structure on your property that is over 200 feet, yep, you have to fill out a form with the FAA that requests that, and they have to give their approval. So the FAA is in there too.
Understandable, because then they want to add that structure or whatever it is to
tax rolls
to your sectional map.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
Well, but your local community wants to get the tax money.
Now, Ryan, with them prosecuting and everything, and you saying there's a possibility, well, that other towns may copycat. Do you think that's going to spread like COVID? Because I'm getting scared now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and let me follow up that the case has been decided now. Mm-hmm. He was convicted on 3 counts of trespassing. That conviction extended that he would spend some time in jail. He would end up having to pay a fine, and he is disallowed from ever owning a drone again. Talk about
now,
yeah.
That's one part of the United States I'm documenting down to never visit.
Exactly.
Here's the flip side of it. I'm sure he doesn't have the money to hire and go in federal court to get the lower court overturned because you're talking about federal law. But I happen to live in a town, we have a federal courthouse, and when I was elected, the judge got elected, and he's a good friend of mine. So I would just walk in and say, hey, what about this? Throw it out, But everybody doesn't have that option.
Right.
And so what we need to do is these stories need to be brought up, because sooner or later there needs to be an association. It's not the AMA, because they're not going to do it. An association that has the wherewithal, and people are donating money, $25 a month, $50 a month, whatever you can pay, into a fund for a legal fund. Because those cases have to be, and the one with the most money, in most cases, in civil infractions, wins.
Okay, Paul.
Well, you're absolutely right on that. Sorry about that, Lawrence. You're right on that, but we only keep talking about that here. How do we get that going?
Right.
So you
So
got to
we
have
can't just talk
somebody
about it here.
like Sean and the people that are here right now, and anybody that's in here need to get together and say, we're going to form this. But then that's a big responsibility. And you know, I'm an old guy. I'm on the sunset side, but you need some go-getter that's going to say, yeah, we'll set up a fund. We'll do it all by the book. We'll set this up. We'll put it out there in all the media and go from there. But you know, to ride that horse, you can't be some old guy. You got to be a strong.
I understand where you're coming from, Paul. But you know what? The one thing here, and since I've been alive, I haven't seen an elected official other than maybe Obama, who wasn't on the sunset side of things, you know, work for the betterment of things. So, I mean, I think anyone could take it on. It's just the amount of commitment that person has to it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though, Lawrence, is that it has to be apolitical. It can't be. You can't get a Democrat.
That's part of your problem.
You can't
That's part
get
of your
a
problem.
Republican. Yep.
Yeah, and any group that you try to form above a certain size, I think there's been, people have looked into it before. There's been a couple of reports that once groups get beyond 5 to 10,000, it becomes almost impossible to stop that group obsessing about how they're run, rather than actually getting on with their core objectives. So where do we actually sit as far as this poor chap's case then? So he's been convicted of the 3 charges. Will he be appealing?
So that's the ultimate, right? Is that he has until Friday. So we're only talking a couple days away to request an appeal. Now, in order to do that, we've got to have some money for that to happen. So he has put out a GoFundMe to try to get some funds. And that's where this is a call for action, right? We need to help this individual get those necessary funds such that he can chase this with an appeal. Right. Honestly, I can tell you too, I think he's got a really good shot at the appeal for a couple of reasons.
Very much.
Number one, I was supposed to be the expert in witness for testimony. The judge disallowed my testimony because I was going to be remote. Now, in the days of COVID, right. I wonder how they're doing business in a court without having a remote.
When all the judges are serving their business, doing their business remotely.
Exactly. So that's one grounds for appeal. The other, I don't think his attorney did a very good job. So we have that concern in there. But the real problem is that when it came to prosecuting this individual, it was all about the FAA regulations. They were prosecuting on, well, he couldn't see it, was beyond line of sight. He didn't have a Part 107. And they went through all these things that were FAA regulations.
Right.
But you, as a state, you can't prosecute on that. That's a federal regulation, right?
Right.
So what they didn't do, which was the whole portion of this statute, was prove anything about surveillance. That was the key. If they had done anything about surveillance, then you could convict him, but they didn't. So that's where this needs to get thrown out. So a couple of things have to happen. One, we need to get this guy enough money that he can do the appeal. And so that's the call to action. We need some funds, putting into place so that he can take that to the next level.
You have a GoFundMe link for this guy?
I do, and I'll get that up.
I will pop it in the chat for you while you're chatting.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Please carry on chatting.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean.
The other is we need to get him a lawyer. He has a lawyer out of Baton Rouge that was not very good. He's found another one out of Baton Rouge that has willingly agreed to it for $12,000. And I gotta believe that we can find an attorney who's ready to turn this around at lesser cost, especially because we're probably going to be able to give him everything he needs to get going on this.
Well, besides that, wrongful prosecution opens up that state for legal fees once it's overturned.
That's
he can
correct.
Get the legal fees back.
Yes. And so that's also in the back of our minds, is that, if we fund this, then like we're saying, we can build a war chest by collecting some of those fees too, right? Yep. And we just did this for Benjamin Dotson, where we were able to fund up his GoFundMe.
Yes.
DroneWorks, they went out and they said, look, we're going to waffle off a brand new Evo 2. And they just did that. All those funds went into that campaign to get him off of those charges. So now we need to do the same thing for James Benson. And I think it's probably even more important to do it for James Benson, because that's actual case law versus Dotson, where we still can file for a motion to dismiss. We still can go through the trial process. There's plenty of opportunity to get this one off the books. If this one stands in Louisiana, we're in trouble.
Is there any assistance across from the Michigan case that can be thrown at him? Because obviously they had a very good. I know obviously state to state is different, but is there anything that case can help with the one in Louisiana?
Unfortunately not. So one, we didn't have any war chest because there was no commitment on money at all out of that case.
Yes,
the other is we were particularly involved in preemption, which is at the state level. Louisiana does not have the same preemption statute at all. If they did, this makes it even more interesting. But no, they don't have, and so we're stuck.
That's a shame because
Sean has posted a link to the GoFundMe in the chat. If you can help out in any way, please help out. This gentleman, I don't think he's done anything wrong, and this we need to start fighting these issues. We really do, because if it happens to him and we allow it, it's going to happen to you next, and there's not going to be anything we can do about it. You were saying, Sean?
Absolutely, and it is something which needs action on, because this is obviously something very scary that the chap is now staring down the barrel of, and it is going to eclipse his life. There is obviously the whole side thing which bothers me greatly, that there was issues between the two neighbors previously, etc., and it just feels like someone reaching to be able to prove their point that they were right all along, etc. And I think he's very unlucky to live right next door to a parish county deputy as he does. It feels very scary that if he can't raise the funds, that he's just not able to do anything about it. So how long is he supposed to spend in prison? Do you know?
I have to go back and look at the counts, but I believe it was like 30 days for each count, and I suspect that those are going to be waived, so that you won't have it, as long as he pays the fees, goes through the probation, agrees to everything else. But if he doesn't, then they would throw him in the clamor for 90 days potentially.
Wow,
that's incredible. And his obviously his attitude at the moment is, if I can raise the finance, I will of course appeal with this new lawyer.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, is he in touch with anyone that he's just waiting to pull the trigger on to help him legally?
Well, so right now he's got the one lawyer that said, I can do this for $12,000, and that's just not feasible. Even with funds that we would raise, that's just not going to do it. I think it's reasonable to expect $2,000, $3,000, maybe $4,000 to get this thing through an appeal. And so I know my commitment is going to be tomorrow. I'm going to be calling local lawyers in Ruston and say, hey, wait a minute, can you do this? And by the way, we can give you all the details to make this happen. Basically doing the research for them.
Yes, I mean there could be an angle. We talk about organisations to help the hobby and that type of thing. There could be an angle from the legal point of view to perhaps approach even some of the larger firms who have charitable sides, pro bono sides, where perhaps they can be convinced, not for this case because there isn't the time, but perhaps they can be convinced that there is value there for them in terms of the amount of cases that are unfortunately going to be coming up as regulations tighten and things change, and states and governments want hobbyist drones out of the air or certainly much more restricted. You would hope that there would be some kind of financial gain for other larger lawyers to start getting involved in this.
Right. And the other piece, and we were talking about it a moment ago, of remote ID. Can you imagine your neighbor now knows who's flying that drone, where you're at, how high that drone is? They're going to have all that detail. So, they have a beef with you. Oh, they know exactly where to call, who to go to, and they're going to be able to screenshot whatever information on remote ID to make sure that it sticks. And that's a real concern.
That's going to be ugly. That's going to be ugly.
It will be the single biggest thing to change the hobby, for sure, and also to change it as a profession as well. It is going to be obviously the pre-runner to the UTM systems. And in 10 years' time, our skies here in Europe and over in the States will be very different.
You're right, Sean, but what I'm not understanding is how is now when, say, if UPS or whomever wants to make this delivery to you, why are they not in violation of air trespass over my property now?
Yeah, absolutely, and taking aviation law at its core, there's technically nothing stopping this deputy from taking a helicopter pilot to court who flies over his land a little bit low and that type of thing. So where does it stop?
Well,
this is what's got me screaming mad, and I'm trying to word it so it doesn't sound harsh, but basically I can say, remember the infamous mysterious helicopter, Sean, that flies low over people's houses? Well, we've come to the conclusion after the information you gave me that they're actually using these helicopters to scan people's homes. What's happening, Ryan, is here in New York City, there's been a rash of unmarked helicopters flying 50 to 70 feet above homes. And come to find out, with the help of Sean and a few other people, that it's police, it's government or whatever. The call letters are very small. They're written in red against a navy blue or black background, so you can't see it, okay, unless you have binoculars. And they're flying over people's homes. So I could say, well, maybe I couldn't because it's law enforcement, but I could say, look, stop flying over my freaking house. At some time and point, if enough people said it, maybe something could happen. I don't know. It's just crazy. The shoes on the other foot, it's always different. But
and the one thing in Louisiana with this particular law, it is very, very specific to UAS. So they are specifically targeting drones and no other aircraft. So if you wanted to fly, let's say your gyrocopter or your ultralight out there, it's Class G airspace. There's nothing to hit. He could have launched an ultralight from his property, flown at 50 feet right over the guy's house, and it wouldn't have been aerial trespass. But because it was a drone, even if it was at 350, 400 feet, they prosecuted.
Wow,
absolutely crazy.
I don't get the difference, but aircraft is an aircraft.
Yep.
But in some states, and I'm not a paraglider, but Drone Shots had mentioned this, but I do know this to be true. In some states, if you build your paracopter or whatever that thing is with the big prop on the back, if you build your own, you don't have to have a license.
That's true across the board. Yes.
Right. So say Sean's flying back on his way home from McDonald's, like I saw a kid do, on YouTube.
Why am I coming from McDonald's?
He flew from, well,
What are you saying, Lawrence?
I'm just saying, no, there
This
was a kid-
is a respectable stream with serious subjects, and
Okay,
you
I
have to bring
apologize. I should say the video.
McDonald's and
But
me.
We're not going to go squirrel. I apologize, but there was a kid who had a paraglider.
It was a
He
great
got the
video.
idea to fly to McDonald's,
Mhm.
land, and get his order and take off and go home. So now, in the event that he was doing that, can I get him in trouble for flying over my home 2 times? I mean, this is what it's going to come to. And
Well-
unfortunately, you have those little old ladies that say, he's looking at me, you know, and while she's feeding her cats in the backyard.
This becomes the new get off my grass, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly,
yes,
exactly, which
exactly.
is scary.
I'm glad you put a GR in front of that.
Yeah, I was wanting to ask Ryan so bad, but I held my tongue on him. When you mentioned the thing about these guys who had they had weed, is it bad people with bad yards, or are these people who are working towards world peace? But I just think that this here in itself, he has to get some help. This can't stay this way.
And I know people are going to watch this live stream over, and you probably did in the beginning, but Ryan, if you could reintroduce yourself and how you're related to this case for people who cut in to fast forward the live stream or whatever, and say, what the hell are these guys talk about? If you can do that, we would appreciate that.
Yep. So my name is Ryan Latourette, and I'm out of Michigan. So I don't have anything to do with Louisiana, or didn't until all this case started happening. And that's when I had engaged with James and said, I would be very willing to be his expert testimony to try to push the stuff back, and got all the details of that case. And so I've worked with James several months now as we've gone through looking at his testimony, looking at the entire storyline, and trying to educate the lawyer that he actually had on aviation law and how we needed to defense against this. And again, it's his name is James Benson. It's Ruston, Louisiana, the Ruston Parish, and he has had 3 counts of criminal trespass that have been decided against him, and he's having to decide whether or not to appeal by Friday. So we really got to get him some help.
Contacted some of the big boys? When I say the big boys, I'm talking like Remote Pilot 101 that makes money every day by educating on drone law and FAA regulations. So
we've reached out to a number of different industry insiders. I can tell you DJI, in fact, Brendan Schulman, he is aware of the case and was willing to write an amicus brief for that case. So there's manufacturers that are involved. There's a lot of interest by groups such as Remote Pilot 101. I don't know that they are one of the groups particularly interested in helping. But nobody yet has been putting forward money, and that's really the big concern. We need money more than we need the amicus briefs, because we can't go anywhere without the money to get the lawyer to get to court.
Exactly, it's very real for James right now, isn't it? So he needs.
Yes.
I want to bring up a small fact that no one seems to have taken into account, and that is this. All started because a gentleman flew over a deputy of that particular town's property.
Yes.
Now, had this been a regular civilian, do you think it would have been carried as far?
That's kind of the interesting thing. When this case
it's all about
got
who
going.
You know.
Yeah. So the case, it got going because he was flying over that deputy's property. But the other 2 counts, they claimed that he was flying over somebody else's property. And one of those pieces of property was a woman next door. And that's where I think they were trying to say, well, surveillance. They never proved that. They never went into it in detail in the testimony. But yeah, so it's the idea that the neighbors get pissed off, and it doesn't matter which neighbor. In this case, I think it was the police officer that was probably pushing things with the prosecutors. And it's just amazing that the prosecutors themselves were saying, yeah, you don't have a case.
Well,
And it
see,
took going to the state level.
this is where I'm trying to go with this. Because it was a police officer,
Mhm.
deputy, whatever the title is in that Providence or whatever, how hard would it have been pushed if a civilian had reported this? Because
Right.
it's all about who you know, all right? I have several police officer friends. I'm not going to lie. I've been pulled over and said, I know Officer so-and-so out the 101 precinct. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's my boy. Go ahead. Just slow down. You know, so had there's been a civilian, and I'm going to keep repeating it, would someone like me or you have been able to push this issue as hard as the state of Providence did?
Well, I think that's why they piggybacked this woman that he mentioned onto it to make it seem as if there was some, form of collusion with the whole pushing of the trespassing to make it not look like it was the police.
They tried to make it look like a repeat offense. Like he does this all the time, and he's
Right.
illegally flying all the time.
Didn't it take him like 4 days to charge him?
Yet on the day of the arrest, he hadn't even flown the drone.
Illegally flying all the time.
Didn't it take him like 4 days to charge him?
Somebody's got their echo
Someone's
going.
got their mic on. That's you, Justin.
He hadn't even flown the drone.
Your YouTube. They.
Another thing, Ryan. He can't possibly be the only one in that town with a drone. Or is
Well,
it?
you're
Or
talking
is
about
it?
down south. It's possible.
In that area, yeah.
Guys, give me a second.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, if you guys in the chat have any questions, legitimate questions you want to ask Ryan dealing with this particular case, Louisiana drone trespassing case, I suggest you try to ask it now, only because if it's happening down there, it's a matter of time before it spreads. Now, Ryan, getting back, go ahead, Sean.
What is the situation with that, though? Because obviously, yes, you have this is a parish court, a county court, which is passed this conviction down. If they try to use this as case law somewhere else, can that lawyer have it dismissed as case law because it doesn't stand in a higher court because it was unchallenged? Yeah. So does it have to be challenged to go on, basically?
I think that's a great question, right? So we see this in Louisiana. Does this translate to any other state at this point? The answer is no, except, and this is where we get into some of those policy things happening behind the scenes. One is called the ULC, the Uniform Law Committee. And the Uniform Law Committee has spent the last, I want to say 3, if not 4 years, trying to put together language that they would get in front of Congress to say, here's what constitutes aerial trespass. They literally are looking at, can we get a law together that says aerial trespass, and can we get that in front of Congress to pass it?
Yes.
Big concern. Now, we went in and I say we as a community as a whole, drone operators, and tried to make sure that nothing got passed that was unreasonable. The ULC did put together some language, and it looked pretty good to the drone industry. And yet law enforcement came in and they said, no, we don't like this language. We want to scrap this. And so ULC said, okay, we're going to table this. We're going to go back to the drawing board. This is the type of case that the ULC would pick up and they'd go, look, this is exactly what we need. We're going to take elements from this and put this into our format, right? And we're going to pass this over to Congress. And usually when ULC passes over something to Congress, Congress looks at that and goes, rubber stamp.
So they don't have to have proven it. They don't have to have because in Europe, for anything to become a wider law, you have to have gone to higher courts. Basically, it has to have been tested. Just because that person didn't appeal it, that almost, it doesn't kill it, but it certainly harms it as being used as case law. But the ULC could still take parts from it.
Exactly.
to form it, right?
Yep.
That is very concerning.
And that's the big concern, because at that point, now Congress has it, you're talking nationwide, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And Congress haven't got a clue about UAVs.
Amen.
They just, oh, if that's the deal, yeah, sign me up, you know?
Unfortunately, the way it goes, unless Congress can see a way to make money out of it, which I'm sure they could see a way to make money out of water on Mars, it should go to
They
pass.
are actually, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly my point.
It's a big industry.
Yeah, exactly my point. So if it going to Congress is just the starting point of it, because then it'll have to be delegated to individual states, and
yes,
one state is going to say, okay, I'll follow rule A through 9, but I'm not going to follow 10 because we just don't do that here in this town or this city or state.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because all they have to do is Congress to put the finger on the FAA scale, and the FAA could then make it FAA law regulation.
Yes, exactly. And one to address one thing that's coming up in the chat quite a lot, and it comes up on a lot of in the comments of my videos of similar stories, which is, oh, I thought the FAA governs that. I thought this was FAA. There's a very big difference between the FAA going after a drone pilot or a general aviation pilot because they've broken the law, and a local or state court coming after you.
I'll be right back.
Effectively breaching FAA regulations, doing that. The FAA will not come along to court and step in and say, actually, that's our purview. You can't touch that. They will stay out of that particular action. So it is very, very difficult. It is down to your lawyers and your legal representatives to prove that case. So unfortunately, it isn't a double-edged sword, which perhaps it would be useful, but of course, as we know, the FAA don't have their own police force, etc. It's all enforced by others. So it's very difficult, because it does seem bizarre to have a set of regulations which are federal, which are across the nation, which can be stepped on, which can be encroached by local courts, without the federal agency coming along and saying, actually, you can't do that. Do you think that will ever happen as the more of the if we get more cases like this, Ryan?
So in this, where we go back to that MCADO versus Genesee County case,
yes,
I'm truly with the belief that at some point the FAA is going to recognize, and if they already haven't, that they can't control that first few hundred feet of airspace. And so I think they're going to be saying, hey, look, we can't be on every street corner. It's not going to happen. We do know that there are people who can. We've got local police officers, but they can't enforce federal law. At some point, we're going to have to pass over that jurisdiction to the local divisions. Okay. And now when they say local, they're going to mean we're going to pass over the states. And so that's where, to me, it becomes very important that each and every state throughout the nation has a preemption clause that says, hey, local municipalities, you can't create your own drone ordinances. We're going to have one set of ordinances at the state level, and that's probably going to match with the state next door and the state next door and the region. And so you'll make it predictable as to what's legal versus what's not legal, for a particular drone pilot in an area. Just as if you were to go to Europe, if I'm to fly to Europe, I should be able to look up, I'm going to England. What do I need to know to fly anywhere in England? And the same vice versa. You come to Michigan, you should be able to know, hey, where can I fly in Michigan? Where can I fly in Michigan? But I do see that happening at some point, because there's just not the resources to police it.
But do you think the complicating factor in there will be the fact that 0 feet to 500 feet is about to become the most monetized part of the airspace for the next 20, 30 years. So perhaps there'll be some kind of joy there, because certainly in Europe, we're just about to bring in regulations which have been pushed back due to COVID, which will actually bring a uniformed approach across the whole of Europe. So a resident of France can go into Germany and they can actually fly under the same regulations, the same registration number and everything else like that. They can literally just go, you could go backpacking across Europe. Not the UK, unfortunately. We are still adopting those regulations, but because of Brexit, there's a little line that we still have to work out how we get across that Brexit line, unfortunately, for this particular law. But yeah, so I agree, because that is essentially the European Air Safety Agency doing exactly what you're saying there, and they are giving out a much more set formula across all the countries, not even states, not even local provinces, and therefore the police on the ground have a very set and simple set of instructions to follow as to whether someone is breaking the law or not. And that comes from everywhere, from how high to remote ID. Everything is covered on these new regulations, and I do agree with you.
Now, getting back to what you were saying, Ryan, basically, if this guy doesn't get up enough money for court fees and to appeal, he will be in a lot of trouble.
Yep, he's already signaled me to me
Sean,
today.
if Sean, before you go anywhere, if you can put that link one more time, I would appreciate it. I'll copy and paste it.
I'm back already. Yeah, no problem, sir.
Oh, thank you, Paul. But guys, go contribute to this.
Yes,
If this guy doesn't get the $2,000 to $3,000 that he needs to cover these court cases, drone laws could start changing in the South and slowly trickle down to the cities.
Yep.
Well, the cushion should be about 10 grand is what I think it's going to take.
Well, they say a goal of 12,000, but
Yeah.
listen, every little bit
helps.
goes
But see,
towards.
the sad part of it is that the reason that everybody should be aware of this is he's only got until Friday.
Yes.
Today's Wednesday.
Yes.
So he has to get a gung-ho attorney, somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about, and get them on board to either stay to at least file the paperwork to stay until he can get there and
go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they need to stay the judgment until the new attorney comes in and says, hey.
I was just trying to answer Aerial Images. He says, shouldn't any lawyer be willing to take this as a slam? Unfortunately, no. Ryan explained that a little earlier. In this particular town / Providence /
Backwoods.
Fantasy Island area.
Backwoods.
Amen.
It's not such one of those cases that you want to go against the city. And I can kind of understand that. That's like a pro bono lawyer going up against a prosecutor who knows the judge, who knows the officer who pressed charges, who knows the court clerk, so
it's also very difficult as well for a new lawyer to take on a case, especially past conviction point, for appeal process. There are specialist lawyers who obviously handle that type of thing, but unfortunately they do tend to double and treble their fees. The urgency.
Hey, Herman. Paul's slacking.
No, you got 5 minutes till 6.
Okay, just giving you a heads up. But hey, what's up, JSK Enterprises? But getting back to what's going on, what do you personally think the outcome will be if this guy doesn't get this money up? I mean,
I can tell you I've had conversations with him today, and he's already kind of in that defeated attitude where, he's been willing to put forward money, but he doesn't have that much money to do it. And especially after he just paid for attorney fees in the first case. So he's at a point where he's leaning against doing this unless he can get the money. So that's a key. The other piece, and this is, I'm going to say it, this is shitty. The prosecuting attorney in this case came through and heard that, well, maybe he wants to appeal, and has said, if you appeal, I'm going to slap a 4th charge of criminal trespass on you, and that's going to stick, and you're going to spend another portion of time in jail, and they won't release the jail time. So you know, they're really throwing things at him to try to get this to stick.
I would.
And that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point as well, Ryan, because I think we have to, when we're looking at this from a hobby point of view, we also have to look at it from the individual point of view. When I spoke to Benjamin down in Nashville, you know, he is a hobbyist flyer, flying a drone. He loves it. He's not part of any groups or anything. He didn't even know there's a wider community until he found Ryan and other people like him. But there is a line where we have to realize people won't step across, even if they're in the right, because as you're saying, a fourth charge, the cost of an appeal, the issues that would have for him personally, financially, over the next decades, not even the next few years, right, would absolutely change his life. So there has to be a point where he says, I'm going to have to take this unless we get X, Y, Z, which would make the risk viable.
One for the team. One for the team.
Yeah. You know, it's sad that it has to go down like this, but I would like to know, how would this case have been handled in a larger city? And I'm not talking about New York City, but a much larger city than where he is, because it's all about local jurisdiction. And what I mean by that is, I used to transport a guy that I used to work for, used to buy used cars in Jersey. We lived in Harlem, and he would pay me to drive the car down to Pensacola, Florida in 24 hours. I get some sleep, get back on the bus, and 2 or 3 later drive down. So in one small town in Georgia, I forget the name of it, I'm not going to mention it, but there was a police officer that kept noticing that I was stopping in this town to use the bathroom, to get something to drink. Now, he noticed all of this, to use the bathroom, to get something to drink, and I was always in a different car with temporary plates. 3 times this guy stopped me and didn't find anything, but because of the town and where it was, it finally got to the point where he stopped me the last time and told me, I suggest you take another route, then come through here. And they can get away with stuff like that in these smaller towns. And that's
say it, good old boy towns.
Hey, they can get away with it in big towns and cities too, to be frank. You know,
true, but it's all a matter of unfortunately, this guy has no support where he is, you know, as opposed to being in a city and posting a blog about it and people wanting to take the case and stuff. If no lawyers in the town want to take the case, right there, that tells you they're all in cahoots.
Right.
Hey, if somebody wants to do a quick recap for anybody that just came in, like Metro Drones, he flies a lot here in Michigan. You probably know him. He's down south of Detroit. You know, give a short synopsis. We can't go for the 30-minute review, but a short synopsis of where we're at and what we're talking about might help some of these people.
Yeah, so the short synopsis, we have an individual, James Benson, who is in need of funds to do an appeal. He was charged with and convicted of 3 counts of criminal trespass for flying his Inspire 1 at 30 to 40 miles an hour at a height of 350 to 400 feet over the woodlands of a neighbor's property. If it stands, this will change the way that we operate as drone operators throughout the nation and places us all at risk.
Right.
And he's facing jail time too, Herman. So
facing jail time.
Ryan, I would really love to get this gentleman as much help as possible. You know, we posted the link to the GoFundMe, but the drone community is a lot larger than just those guys. And I know Sean and Metro Drones, I don't know if it's all possible, but can this be mentioned tomorrow night? Because that's a much larger audience and, you know, more people that could possibly help out in this situation, if it's something to go forward with.
Yeah, shout this out to every group that you can, whether it's a Facebook group and your Instagram, you know, maybe you're part of an AMA club. Everybody needs to know this and know the real damage that this could do to the hobby and to the industry.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. You said a few seconds ago that they said if he doesn't accept it, they're gonna put another charge on him. So it sounds like he going to jail anyway. He
Well,
gonna
no,
get jailed anyway. I'm saying that's what it sounds like.
yeah, what they're saying is if he
Appeals.
appeals,
Right.
then they will slap on a fourth charge
We'll
to
stick.
try to. So it's really they're trying to make the bargain to say don't appeal, otherwise we're going to make it
So
difficult
that's
on
what
you.
I was just saying. Maybe he should just take that, you know what I mean, and instead of trying to appeal it, because appealing it probably get worse. You know, I mean,
I don't know if I'd be that happy just to say, okay, I'll sit 120 days in jail for flying a drone.
Well, as Ryan said as well, though, there's a chance that if he accepts it and goes along the right level, that he'll end up not necessarily serving.
I'm just saying, like from a street
But
code.
Ray, before you
If
got
he
here,
also loses his rights to be able to fly.
he loses his right to ever fly a drone again in that state.
I understand that. I understand that.
Even own a drone. Yeah.
My point is,
Is that the state or the FAA?
and we all do certain things. I'm just saying, like in the hood, you do something, you don't man up, you get more time. That's why I was just asking you that. I don't care about the other stuff that they just said.
Yeah.
Make sure that if you put
That's right,
that
Ray.
money,
Yep.
he's not gonna still go to jail. And what is the purpose of putting the money up for him for the case, and he's still gonna go to jail?
Yeah, and I honestly am of the opinion that if he does appeal, he will win, because I've looked at all the case details in the decision, and they never ever prove surveillance, and that is the one key that they needed to prove. Since they didn't do that, it's got to be tossed out.
Well, and besides that, Ray, the capper is he was called as a defense expert witness, and they would not let him do it by remote during COVID. He had to go show up, and so therefore he couldn't testify on the guy's behalf.
Right.
So he's gonna use that as a defense that he really couldn't get there. Then
And I'm guaranteeing in the appeal, I'm going down there. Right.
But I'm just asking questions, because I see things, all the time happen in these courts, and
Well, and I think the thing
absolutely.
is, Ray, is when you hear about it, it makes your blood boil and you get mad. You know?
you get mad, yeah, you get mad. I get mad in New York City, so I can imagine out there. You know what I mean? But I don't foresee us having these major issues like that in New York City. We might be restricted, but there's too many buildings out here to not be able to fly with somebody's stuff,
Yeah.
But in this case, what Ryan also didn't mention when he did the recap was the property that was flown over was a deputy officer of the town.
That's what I said. He probably didn't know that.
Oh, he knew that.
He knew.
Oh, he knew.
Yeah, they've had previous beef.
They've had previous neighborly run-ins.
Yeah.
And I think the concern is, like, I missed this in the recap, we are starting to see this translate to other states. We had another individual in Nashville, Tennessee, who was charged for flying over buildings. And so that one is still in play as well. Very similar case.
I'm okay.
Yeah, that case I was familiar with that one in Nashville with the whole protests and the flying. That's another one that I think is ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel for James as well in Louisiana, because you look at his case, you look at Benjamin in Nashville and people like that, and you say, "Oh, that's never going to happen." That's never going to. They're not going to get him, but it's actually happened. So now, when he looks at appeal, you have to. If he does decide not to, you have to respect that, because he just doesn't know where it's going to. As Ray is saying as well, he just doesn't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, but what's crazy is
become.
It's happening in these small towns where you have a lawyer that's working pro bono and having lunch with the prosecutor, and you know how they do. I see it here in New York. You go to the main court building in Manhattan, Brooklyn, anywhere, you may see your lawyer talking to the prosecutor down the hall, and that doesn't give you no real assurance.
Yeah, but in New York,
because a lot of these guys know each other for many cases, being in the courthouses. They're all officers of the court. Many of them went to school together.
They went
that
to
never troubled me.
Yeah, they colleagues some way.
If you can post this GoFundMe link with a little bio, help this guy get this money. Seriously. I mean, this isn't. We're not going. I won't say it. Never mind. The
Well,
views and opinions, that are heard tonight are not necessarily the
There you
views and
go, Paul.
opinions of
There.
everyone on the panel.
One thing I would say about the link is don't be intimidated by the target limit, because if we can get that up to a reasonable level, we have a level that Ryan can attack some lawyers with on Friday and
It's
say,
time
hey,
for a drop, guys.
Help the other guy in Nashville with some of the money.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
It's time for a
guys.
drop. Well, I'm not.
Wednesday night
choking
with
to
those guys are sponsored by.
Those
Guys.
Yeah, so whatever
Sorry,
you
I'm
guys
choking
can
out
do
here.
to help out, to help him, to help this gentleman. He needs all the help that he can get. We have a very large community. If we can, help out to when a guy's doing something wrong, we can also help out when a guy's doing something right. I never say that this can't happen here in New York City. If you allow it to happen to one person, it
Agreed.
can be you next.
Agreed.
And I think,
Agreed.
that we talked about this earlier, and Sean was bringing it up. The idea is right now we need money for this particular individual, for this particular circumstance, just like we got a bit of money for Benjamin Dodson in Nashville. At some point, we're going to collectively have some of this maybe extra money, and we can start to develop a true organization with a war chest, such that if that does happen to you or right, then we as a collective entity can go after and say, we're going to help in these situations,
Right.
and we're going
There's
to make
strength
sure
in
that it
numbers.
doesn't happen.
There's strength in numbers, and it does matter. You can't send $100 or $50 like some of the guys on the page. Send 5 or 10. Any little bit gets you this guy that much closer. Who knows? A mystery person may pop up somewhere and go here, but we don't know if we don't try something.
Herb said put it in those larger groups where they got a lot of other people, just have an opportunity,
My question is like, is anyone else in that town? There got to be someone else in that town that flies drones.
That's what I thought also, but unfortunately, Justin,
We knew of one other person. That was it. And
One other
I
person.
mean, we're talking a very small community. I think that's really where it helps.
This would be too old for you, but it's like Petticoat Junction. You know what I mean? There's probably a blinker light in the courthouse.
one family store.
Yep.
This probably is where, in New York City, right? You have a great deal of folks that you gather together, maybe fly together, other operators. And here in, rural Louisiana, that's just not the case. So it's not like you can say, hey, to all 10 of these buddies that you go out and fly with. No, that just isn't the case out there. And that's a real problem too.
And all them residents out there probably bandwagon together, huh?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, this particular deputy in the story probably said, I got him now. Whatever incident they may have had in the past, because I've lived on this block 20 something years, and I've never had an incident with any of the neighbors. We know who gossips. We know who does what on our block. So the fact that this neighbor, a deputy, reported him could have been one of any topics. He was jealous he had an Inspire and the deputy did. The deputy was jealous he had an Inspire and he didn't. The deputy, it could be a property line thing. It could be dogs hopping over someone's fence. It could be one guy, the son with the daughter. We have no freaking clue. But the fact that this deputy went and pushed this issue to the point where nobody wants to take the case and defend this guy, that's real sad.
Nobody, but let's put it this way. Probably every Gomer Pyle that lives in that area is willing to take the case, but you don't want them to take the case. You want to have somebody that at least has a clue what's going on.
Yeah.
I guarantee it's probably an hour or two from that location to go to an airport. They might have a crop duster in the neighborhood, but that's it,
Well, Len says payback using his position, and that's how I kind of feel it's going, and I hope it doesn't turn out that way. But coming to a neighborhood near you could be soon.
Right, that's exactly what this case it looks like. Like I said, the amount of days it took for them to bring charges and arrest on the man, it's all about this deputy and what he wanted because of whatever incidents that they've had in the past.
Over his house, man. That's personal right there to him now. That's why he's doing it. He's trying to make a point.
But listen, I brought up the perfect example, Ray, earlier. If you're in your neighborhood and I'm flying past your house, I could be 1 or 2 houses away, but I'm in your neighborhood, and you out of the 10 people's homes that I've flown over to get to a spot or get back, they still got him on flying out of line of sight. They have him on some technical
but they don't have the right to bring those charges.
This is true. But in that town, apparently they do.
Yeah. Well, Ray, here's another interesting point. They got him, they had some of their own expert witnesses come in and say you cannot see a drone 400 feet away.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you kidding me?
And
Inspire one,
at that.
And an Inspire 1 at that.
You see that in a fog.
No, you can see that with your eyes, right?
That's it.
Lawrence, you can see that with your eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, one of the other things that I look at too is if you're a Part 107 person, this has got to bug you because let's say you are going to do a real estate shot. You're going to take pictures of this home to show up on an MLS, right?
Verify.
When you do that, where are you? You're not over that person's property. You're over somebody else's property, and you're at low altitude, right? So all of a sudden, this starts to become a very big concern for a Part 107 pilot, and
or even like doing building inspections or roofing inspections or any of those things.
Right, you may have to cross the street or fly over someone's backyard.
Yep.
Well, that would be almost the case anytime a drone goes up.
Yep.
If I don't think it would get to that point here in New York, but if word or wind catches on like a small brush fire in these small towns, and these small towns tend to support
all this rope flying and all this other stuff in New York City is going to happen before that other stuff.
Yeah, it is happening in
That's why it happens.
That's what's
Long Island is happening.
Rope flying and all that other nonsense is going to kill us over here.
Certain places in Long Island and certain communities.
Yes, here in New York, that's true.
Long Island, just like
That's
out
not,
there.
that's not
Yes, that's true, Ryan. Out here in Long Island, New York, each town and
Nassau
has
about it.
certain places, and it's not the law of the FAA. It's the town says.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's a town.
Each town requests a different fee for you to fly there for that day.
Just like
Each town has their different rules on where you can
got their
fly.
own laws. I know all about this. Like 10, 25 towns in Georgia with their own laws. Well, you could go to Savannah, you can't do en route, you know.
And it's like COVID. It just spreads. You know, oh, I heard over there they're doing it. Well, we should do that. They're doing it. We should do it.
And then again, that deputy probably got something hidden over there. He don't want nobody to see.
Yep.
You know?
No, I think he just has it out. I think he just has it out for his neighbor. Maybe he wants his property. Who knows?
Or
what is the size of this guy's property? Do you
or
know?
He's got the bodies of the
several acres.
Bodies of the transients buried in the woods.
So the gentleman who was flying has several acres.
Yeah,
So
they both have
obviously
several acres.
They both next to each other have several acres.
Yep.
So the only way that I could see this guy really complaining and getting pissed off is if he takes off with that Inspire, clears the fence, and makes a beeline to his backyard. But and you know, I don't know, but you would think that he would want to go to a certain altitude and then take off.
And that's exactly what happened. He went way up. I mean, the guy went to like 300 feet before he started moving.
Well, that was only a second or third.
So here's the question to ask them in court: how the hell do you know I passed over your property if I was that high, and I was out of line of sight?
Yeah. If I can't see it at that amount of feet, how did you see it at that amount of feet?
Yeah, these are things to be brought up.
Yeah, but he should have it on a map too, on his DJI map, right where he was at.
Well, Ryan did say that they do have the flight records, and he did pass over. He did pass over. He did pass over the gentleman's property.
So that was one of the other things that they do. We've got the flight records. They would not allow those in court.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of the trial. You're flying over someone's house. So why would
Bingo.
you use that?
Evidence. They wouldn't even allow his real actual evidence then.
Yeah, I do see there's grounds for an appeal. He's going to have to get an outsider.
Yeah.
I think perhaps the flight records thing as well could have been to do with the whole surveillance thing, couldn't it, Ryan? Because the flight would have shown that he went onto his property and turned around and came back, and that was incidental to the flight, and therefore he's not actually surveilling the guy. You know, whereas if he'd gone way into and he'd flown here where the guy's barn is,
and hovered,
flown here where the guy's house is, and then gone across.
That's still not going to be an easy.
That would have been
case.
surveillance, but if they'd let the flight records, and I suppose they would have almost been shooting themselves.
Well, the sad
Exactly.
part of it is a big time attorney would see it as an easy case, but it takes dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then you got grease the
But
cow.
you know what it is? This particular town is trying, and with any laws that don't exist, they always make them do the
Creating their own.
cases. They're right, do the cases. Depending on this here, you could use it as a reference as opposed to the Michigan case and the Florida case or whatever's going on. And I
Right.
think this town is just trying to make a name for itself by
You
saying,
live in that town?
huh?
You live there?
The shit.
That's where he wants to move to.
Oh, okay. All right. So now all the spaghetti sauce is coming in now.
Well,
You're in
listen.
our area. Yeah. Yeah. It's
All
more
I-
personal than anything.
All I know is it's if he can get the money, I pray he can get the money up to appeal. Seriously, because once they sit down and look at everything, it's pretty cut clear. It's cut
Yeah.
pretty clear.
Yeah.
Once they say the FAA is the only one that can issue these things, and where's the FAA on this, Ryan? Because has anyone contacted the FAA? What's happening?
The FAA does not get involved in any of these ever.
Unless a good attorney subpoenas them, they have to respond.
Well, if they
Yeah.
threaten to say he can't fly anymore, all that stuff, I think the FAA should get involved.
You would think.
It's me, that's
They
just-
should.
But I know they don't deal with.
But see, you got to jump through a lot of hoops to subpoena the FAA, but it can be done because I know somebody did it in a private pilot issue here.
Mhm.
They had to show up.
Yeah, but isn't the FAA usually the ones that tell local municipality what law that was broken and how to and what charges to bring forth?
Well, yeah, but understand with this particular statute, it's not about the FAA at all. I mean, there is an exclusion that says if you were flying according to FAA regulations, then you are excluded from any of these concerns. So then they went past that and they said the next one is surveillance. If you were surveilling, then you are part of these concerns. So what they did is they prosecuted on the idea that he was not in compliance with FAA regulations by line of sight, and then they were supposed to go after surveillance. And that's why they didn't admit the logs, right? Because here you are flying an Inspire at 30 to 40 miles an hour, right? At 350 feet. What are you going to surveil?
Right.
NASCAR? I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
I agree. I agree with Lynn though. She says even if he wins, the town will probably turn against him anyway.
Small
Yes.
town, yep.
That's why I said where you live at. Yeah, where you live at. It's gonna
Just a quick
fly
note to thank those in the chat who are already giving. Metro Drones has already headed over and put a donation in. Thank you. It's really good to see the community stepping up and coming together.
Very good,
That's
Metro.
why I was asking. This is a very large community, the drone community. And like I said, it's much larger than those guys. I know Ken Herron has a show tomorrow night. Is there any way that this could be mentioned over there, or
I have raised it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem, sir.
It's a much larger audience, and
Exactly.
something can be
Yes.
done.
Yeah, and like droning on should be contacted. A lot of these guys that do.
Right, Ash. Even if somebody just posted a link once or twice throughout, like Ash,
Yeah.
because like you said, Metro, Patrick
And-
Barlow, I don't know who that is, but 6 minutes ago, people are giving money. It's just a matter of posting the link and reading. I
Yeah.
mean,
Put the link everywhere, like you said, with a little bio, and just put the link on.
that's exactly it. I'm going to make sure that a link goes up on those guys as well.
And honestly, I want to see this link, right? Because we've recorded this conversation. This is going to be a great thing to share out with all the groups, all the forums that you can think of. People get to the understanding of what we're talking about, and they're going to be upset, just like you were talking about. This is exploding in your mind, and
To be honest,
everybody's got to be that way.
You were saying things and I was literally screaming in my head inside, because after I came up with a question for when you got done, you brought up something else, and I was like, I should have wrote stuff down. Seriously, man, because there's a lot happening right here, and it is the drone community. I would like to think, despite all of the little kid stuff, we are grown people, and we are a tight community. Okay, I mean, people argue and fight and stuff like that. People do that in general with anything. With anything, but we need to see what happens with this story, just like the gentleman in Michigan. Okay, had word not got out there, I think it might have been a whole lot different outcome. And Ryan, I'd like to thank you for that, because you advocated really hard, and I still need to know how we can get New York City to be on.
We got to do the same thing in New York. Absolutely.
No, seriously,
Yep.
seriously, man, because it's a matter of time before it's in your neighborhood or your town or your state.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
And this law, whatever happens during this event, whether it be good or bad, it's going to be documented in the law books.
Right. And Lawrence, talking about that MCDO case against Genesee County, we're not done with that one. Go figure.
Yeah.
We just found another county, Ottawa County, that has decided that even though it was decided in Genesee County, they don't have to abide by it. So we're right now making plans or organizing all of our forces where we're going to go have probably a picnic at one of the Ottawa County parks, and we're going to restart this process. And they've already committed themselves that they're going to appeal. We're happy about that, right? We want that.
Right.
So we're looking forward to that. And that's the same kind of grassroots organization that's going to take with this issue, right? With making sure that we don't get aerial trespassing charges against anybody, and that we get preemption in New York and California and wherever, right? So as a community, we need to come together. This is probably that first step to say, hey, we can support one of our own who really shouldn't have been charged. Right. And once that takes place, we're going to start to build that grassroots towards an organization that has a war chest, that has, all the resources that we need to go chase these legal and statute types of situations.
I just find it really hard, Ryan, that in this drone community, I've met bankers, bartenders, all kinds of different professionals, but I know there's a lawyer somewhere amongst all of these drone flyers that we know that hopefully can catch wind of this, or somebody can get word to, and maybe he'll want to jump on the bandwagon and say, well, this is what you have to do. This is what we do here in New York or Chicago. Maybe you could try this.
And I think we've got those lawyers throughout the nation. I know we've got a few here in Michigan that I work with. We just need a lawyer local to Louisiana who's able to get to Ruston and take this through.
Right. I'm quite sure there's someone out there.
Yep.
But it's not going to be someone in his immediate area.
It's been going on for a while now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got until Friday to appeal or else.
I remember a while back he was talking about this a while back.
No, that was a completely different case.
Oh, yeah?
That was a different case. But see, this is what's happening. The one we were talking about when Ryan was on before was from Michigan, correct?
Oh, that's
right. That was the Michigan case. Right, now they have this case here in Louisiana. And then now there's supposed to be some other case somewhere else starting up.
Yep. But it also, there's one small point I'd like to make as well, though, which is why the work that people like Ryan and Jason Harrison in Michigan, the work that they do is so important that actually in Genesee, things have kind of almost switched around an awful lot, haven't they, Ryan?
Yes, they have.
And the chap who was arrested now sits down and talks with the council members and is very friendly with them. It's even been talked about him training more of the local people, etc. So the municipality there has swung round, but again, Jason was a very unique individual who approached it probably in the most perfect way anybody really could have. He is such a calm individual. He is such a level-headed chap. I'm not sure I could have stayed as nice as he did.
In this drone game, and with all of these laws changing, with remote ID coming, there will be casualties.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that with remote ID coming, these type of things will get worse.
Yes.
Right.
Exceedingly
and the same way
worse.
someone would be able to report you flying your drone over my property. As someone mentioned it way back earlier in the chat, can I do the same thing with delivery drones? Can I say, you understand, or taxi drones?
Right, if UPS is delivering to you,
taxes, they ain't gonna do nothing with you. You call them up. They paying a lot of taxes to be in those areas. They just gonna take your phone call and that's gonna be it.
Well, I'd like to hope not, but it's going to.
If that generates some revenue, they're gonna take your phone call and say, "Okay, leave it alone."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah. All of these things, all of these objections, issues, there'll be new classifications made for the delivery drones. There will be UAS2, and UAS2 is allowed to fly over your property because they're obviously putting X thousand jobs into the area and that type of thing. So it will change, unfortunately.
Everybody send an email to FAA and bark on them. Tell them to go help this guy. Get out there. That's why you want to do something. All these people register. Everybody send an email to FAA about this case. And why you guys not out there representing and helping us out? Why you're not? You have 1 million people registered to you guys, taking that over $5. Just come out, speak to the law, just speak to the town people. Like, you know,
or
that's
even that,
even right there.
Even if the FAA got involved with it and helped with this case, in the FAA eyes, wouldn't that be good for them?
Yes, it would.
It would, but it's too small. They have bigger fish to fry.
I said you got 100,000 people registered, like you just say, strength in numbers. You just said it. Send an email.
There is strength in numbers, but when it comes to the FAA, it's exactly why you have Parks Department people here in New York City telling us that they're going to confiscate our drones because everyone's making up their own rules as they go because they've never had rules before. And therein lies the problem. If the FAA comes in, if the FAA came in, but hold on, Ray, if the FAA came in and said, here are the rules for flying in this state, this is what you must do, and this is what you must abide by. If someone breaks this rule, this is what can happen.
Right, that's what the FAA needs to do, but they're not going to do that. And the FAA continuously shows that they have no ability to control airspace.
You take that $5 and make it mandated that you register, so they should be held accountable for something.
Yeah, but the FAA's been controlling airspace for how many years now?
I'm gonna send an email to them anyway, just to see. You never know, bro. You never know.
You're absolutely right.
No, you don't.
You're right, because I said, and I just said it, the FAA continues to show that they do not have the ability to control airspace.
Can I give an example? And Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong. The issue here with the FAA and us getting angry towards the FAA is it would be similar with the DEA, for instance, if a local person was arrested for growing weed, and let's say there was a federal law saying actually for medicinal reasons, etc., you're allowed to. I'm not even saying the laws, but the DEA wouldn't come and step into that case. It would be down to that person's lawyers to actually say, actually, federal law on this is X, Y, Z, and to prove that. And I think that's perhaps where, as Ryan was saying, that perhaps this chap didn't have the right representation in the first place.
Yes.
And they haven't addressed things and haven't forced through the points.
Yes, you're right, Sean.
And that's the way to bring the FAA into it is through the lawyer.
That's I was trying to get to. Yeah, to bring them into it that way. Yeah.
You're right, Sean. But the FAA could have, like Lawrence is saying, the Parks Department tells you these things year after year after year after year, but yet they can't post it.
Right.
If the FAA said, listen, this is it, that's it. Now we won't even harass you.
Right, because
I don't have
Ryan,
a ground to stand on.
On their website that you can
what's
download.
happening here in New York City, Ryan, is as in the last 2 years, New York City, the Parks Department employees who are just there to make sure rules aren't broken are telling people you cannot fly drones from city parks. Okay, we understand that because the city owns it. But now they're going and they're telling drone pilots, if you're caught flying your drone from a city park, whether it be the first time or the second or third time, we can now confiscate your drone. A supervisor can confiscate your drone, and you have to put in a ticket to come claim your property. And if the problem therein lies, the FAA controls the air, and like Herman said, they can't post no flying drones. So and I bring up this issue every time someone brings it up to me. I may leave, but I tell them to ask your supervisor, how come it's not printed there is no flying drones in this park? I already know the answer. They can't do it. They can't do it. I know this, but it's a catch-22.
Yeah, I know.
You understand what I'm saying?
Me and Herm and Matt went out to a park out there. I walked up to the park police and asked them, it's okay. She said, you're not supposed to, but you guys look like you know the rules. There's some flyable people. It's about where you at in the town you are, just like you're saying. Everybody is not stuck on this drone nonsense of being against it.
Well, the bottom line, as Big Matt says, the FAA just don't want to be responsible for drones. It was forced on them to handle drones. They can't even handle commercial aircraft.
And that may be true to an extent. When you're gonna have a 4-day symposium, and you had a whole symposium last year on this,
Yes.
You have full control. So it's over with that kind of talk. You have full control.
No, thinking of the symposium too, great point. Last year's symposium, they had everybody come out. It was big dollars to get into that symposium. This year we got COVID and everything was decided, oh, it's going to be virtual. And yet the price, oh yeah, it was still like $375.
$375 for 4 days.
So that I can sit in front of a computer in my home. Right. Yeah, whatever.
And let them give it to you without the Vaseline.
Yep.
Because that's what they're going to do.
Or without feedback.
Right.
Well, apparently they claim you can, they have one-on-one, and there are discussions you're able to, and I don't know how. I don't know how that's going to be possible.
In other words, they were going to have separate groups for separate topics, type of thing.
Yes, yeah. I'd like to see how that's going to happen.
They should pay attendees.
I don't know if I would want to pay the $375 to find out that I'm not getting what I actually thought I was getting.
You're on the wrong link.
Well, no, not that. It's just that you gotta register. Yeah. You gotta register through a specific link to get into it. But my thing is, I just don't know what the FAA is doing. They have allowed the entire thing to demonize the hobbyist flyer, and now it's starting to fall onto the lap of the 107 pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Herman, this would be a great point now, getting into the last half hour, for Ryan to give a quick synopsis again, because I see like Corey Manos here, several different people have come in, and they don't know really what the hell we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we're talking about Mr. James Benson in Ruston, Louisiana, charged and actually convicted of 3 counts of trespassing by flying his Inspire 1 at 30 to 40 miles an hour at a height of 350 to 400 feet, crossing the woodland property of a next door neighbor who happens to be a deputy sheriff for the county. This needs to be appealed. We have until Friday, so we're only a couple days away in order to make that appeal request. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that this has some funds because we're going to have a a lawyer take this to the next level for this appeal. So
And
we are pleading,
part of
please.
the penalty is jail time plus.
Yes. Jail time plus he is never able to own a drone again, along with fees
For life.
Right.
for life.
And of course, the lifelong issues of having
Come to
convictions.
New York on the drone nowhere.
And a record.
Yeah,
But who gives him that title where he can? That's what I'm asking.
Who gives him what?
Who gives him that title say he cannot own a drone around the world? Like
The judge.
the
The
local
judge.
municipality, the judge.
Okay, so that judge there.
So
Yeah.
it's
That
judge in
means,
that town only.
that means the city agency here, because it's a different state, they have to abide by that rule.
It would come up
Yeah.
probably if they were to search on him, like if he was flying in the park, it would come up and say, oh, you've been convicted and there's another charge because you were reprimanded not to.
Okay.
Right.
All right, that's why I was asking. Yeah.
Right. Then the case log becomes an issue.
That's why I was asking.
That's why the case log has to be made an issue now for this appeal. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It would be the same as like they suspended your license, right? The state of
you
Louisiana
get caught
suspends your
driving
license,
without a
and you got
license.
pulled over in New York, and you could say, "Well, I'm not in Louisiana anymore." Well, that doesn't matter.
No, it do matter. They can't give you, it's like writing, like if your plates expire in New York City and you in New York City, you got a different plate, they can't write you tickets.
Well, they can throw you in jail. They can extradite you.
I see it all the time. That's why I don't know how guys get away with this stuff. Like they had inspection stickers on their windows that's totally expired for years. Still ride around in New York City.
You'll get a
Because they have
ticket.
Pennsylvania or out-of-state plate, they do not give them tickets. Right,
Well,
Jack?
as you know, though, Ray, out in the sticks, Louisiana, is they do whatever they
That's why I
want.
just said, good old boys.
Yep.
Yeah, but I understand that that's that state. If you get a speeding ticket, they're not going to tell you you can't drive no more. They might suspend your license, but after a certain amount of time, you can renew to get your license.
Well, the other key part of the case is that all of the local attorneys did not want to charge him, and it
Right.
got to some
Right. They didn't want to support.
gung-ho state attorney said, "Oh, I'll take that case."
Yeah, the state attorney general, the actual state attorney general
Yeah.
prosecuted
This
this.
went on for over 21 months and no one taking it.
Right.
Probably up for election this year.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Maybe.
That might be the case.
I got arrested for stealing. Does that mean I can't go into the store no more? I can't go into any store? Like,
If the judge said that,
but the
Yeah,
judge
the
can't
judge
say
ordered
that.
No,
What law
no,
is
but
that?
as soon as you walk through the door of my store, I'm going to tase you.
That's the difference right there. The person that owns the store could say, I don't want you in here, but just
Right.
the store. Not every store in the whole county.
Well, this is going to be an even more interesting case because
Yeah.
of the circumstances and where it is. Because like Ryan mentioned, it's happening more and more across the United States. And Herman mentioned also, remote ID testing starts December 30th of this year.
Waiting for it. I've been waiting for that. I ain't against
December
it at all.
30th, which
I
means
ain't against
they
it at
will be
all.
testing
Bring
remote ID
Bring
here in New York and
Bring
other
it.
places around the United States. We know they tested the black box here in New York, Ray, right?
Bring it.
Right. What was that scope? What is that something scope?
Aeroscope.
Aeroscope. They tested that here in New York.
Bring it.
Okay. And it was a success.
Mhm.
And that was many years ago. So it's just a matter of time before it trickles down to the bigger cities and throughout the South. Because some judge is going to say, here's my cousin, okay, in
Read
another
Canadian-
state who
read-
arrested
read-
someone.
read Canadian Drone Hub's comment.
Every time I try to donate, it's marked the organizer has currently disabled new donations to this fundraiser. That's crazy. Metro Drones and someone else just tried to donate. Do you have a link? Maybe
I'm going
I
to
have
ping-
fundraiser by James Benson. Wrongful arrest defense
That's
case.
me going to
Hang on.
large bank account. That's why. Routing numbers.
Okay, I just went to the page and I just copied it straight from the page. Try this link, Roger.
Yeah.
Try that link. That one. That's copied straight from the page.
Yeah, it's not the law.
So far,
Right.
it said to raise 1540 right now.
Nice.
Right. It
It
says
just says
15.
under it.
Someone anonymous, Jess. Metro Drones donated. Patrick Barlow, and this isn't the time that we've been on doing this live stream.
But it does says it's disabled. It says the organizer has currently disabled new donations to this fund.
I just pinged James, and I'm making sure that that is still open. So
Yeah,
he is checking on it right now.
please do so, because here it is.
Yeah, because
Every
it
little
is.
bit-
It's
every
very much
little
still
bit,
open.
It helps.
Geek Savannah says it's open, but do you see a donation in there, Lawrence, for me?
Well,
I see an anonymous.
Oh, I see
Patrick Barlow, Metro Drones.
By Paul Murray.
What's that?
$3,000 donated by Paul Murray.
No.
Yeah, $12,000 actually. It's just been updated.
12,000, Ray. Get it right. Get it right, Ray.
I
12,000.
Paul Murray got it.
I see from anonymous. I don't know who anonymous
Yeah,
is.
it's definitely disabled. You can't even donate.
If you click, it does say that on the homepage. However, if you go down to, do you mind if I show this on the camera?
Go for it. Share the screen if you need to.
So let me just.
Oh, because he's on his phone.
Wait, does Herman have share screen capability turned on?
It's on.
Yeah, it's on. I see the green box. Okay.
When you go into the list of donations, there's another donate now button there, and that seems to work.
I see it.
Or it's certainly letting me click things in there.
Well, because when I went there, it asked for all my credit card information and everything,
Yeah. Although even when I back out of that, it does say
Trying to
disabled.
go
but-
to it at one time. It's probably locked out right now for a second.
Well,
Maybe-
listen, take the link, click on it, and on the bottom it says James Benson. Contact him and be like, yo, fix this now if you want it, And Brian's on it right now.
Yep, I'm on it right now with him.
So don't call him and harass him and say your link doesn't work. Don't contact him. Just bookmark this. If you don't have the money today, well, this weekend's the last day. This Friday's the last day.
I'm on there, but it didn't put my name in. I'm the anonymous.
You're anonymous, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, see, 17 minutes ago.
But I don't know why I'm anonymous because I didn't tell it to be anonymous.
Get him.
Lynn, it wasn't me.
Listen, I appreciate Ryan. Every time you get to come on, we appreciate you. We were supposed to do Sunday, but Sunday was Father's Day, and I was told if I touched the computer, I could draw back a nub. So that's what happened on. You understand, Ryan?
I understand.
You already know. Hey, what's up, Recovery One? Anyway, if the link is working or not, bookmark it.
Yes,
we have until I guess midnight tomorrow night for this guy to get some more money up to appeal this particular case in Louisiana.
Yeah, we'll have in through Friday, and I think we can do this. Every bit helps.
Not think
$15, $20.
We can do this.
Ryan, you don't know when you'll be headed out his way, if at all.
When they reschedule this thing for an appeal, then I'll make my travel plans.
Yeah, we would like for you to keep in touch with us via Sean or Herman or I, and to know what's going on and what's happening. It's back up for now. Donations, Brant Ariel just said.
Okay.
Excellent.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Brant.
Thank you, Brant Ariel.
Thanks, Gary.
Perfect.
Yes, it is. Yep, it does say the donate button is back on the homepage.
Okay, there we go. So send what you can. If you can't do it today, do it tomorrow. I'm actually going to go to the bank tomorrow morning, and I made a few dollars today and going to donate something. It's fixed. Corey Mano says, donate what you can, because if this guy can get appealed, like Ryan says, more than likely by him just appealing, they could possibly win this case. Now, the worst case scenario, if he does not win the cases, he gets another 30 days added on to his 120. But we won't know if we don't freaking try. Because right now he's up for 3 accounts, and that's 30 days each account, I think it is. Or how does it, 40 days each account? How does it go, Ryan?
I believe he's at 30 days per account per
Okay.
count. So I think he's at 90. They're threatening the 4th if he does
For the
appeal.
120. Okay.
But if you're going to appeal, I truly believe that it's going to be an acquittal at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. We need.
The thing
It
is to be
changed
able
from-
to get an attorney that knows what he's doing, knows how to deal with something like this. And this has to be done right away.
Yep. I'm on the phone
Yes, it
for
does.
attorneys tomorrow,
Yes, I
actually.
agree. Also, he changed the goal amount. He changed it from 12,000 to 1,500, and he's already at 1,550. So
That
if
may
they
just
can
be a
appeal-
technical
if
fix.
they
Yeah,
do,
that's a technical
that's true.
piece.
That's
Yep.
true. So if they can appeal it, Ryan's going to make a beeline down there to help represent, because they denied Ryan's witness. What do you call it?
Testimony.
Witness statement, testimony.
Witness
Testimony.
They denied his testimony because of that. Justin Adams, anonymous. Okay, people are doing it. I have to do this in the morning as soon as I get up, for sure. I'm glad the donate button is there. And we appreciate you guys seriously for donating and trying to help the cause. Plain and simple. It's
Hey
got
guys,
to
if you see me squirming around here a little bit, I've had major surgery on my ankle, so I'm in a lot of pain.
You've done extremely well tonight, sir.
You got to
No,
take some of those big
he's-
pills.
he's been
Yeah, even with
squirming.
the pills, they're not. It does but so much.
Hour and 45 in, and you're still.
You may
you're
have
still
noticed
upright.
that he muted. You may
Yes.
have noticed that he
Because
muted.
the lawyer's office called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm in. Woo.
Excruciating pain. And we appreciate you. I was telling him about 6:30. Let's just end the stream if you're in that much pain. But Herman says the show must go on. in
Nothing
pain,
stops those guys.
in pain. And we appreciate it, Herman, but don't overdo it. Seriously.
I mean, we only got a few minutes.
You know, we
Okay.
have had
This
the
is
record.
something that we do need to talk about. You know, this is something
Exactly.
we need to get out. You know, we need to have the guys here in the chat go back and talk with other people about it. We need
Yeah,
the guys on
post
the
this
panel to
link.
talk with other people
Post this
about it.
link in other groups. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
share
the
with
only thing
every
they can
drone
do,
operator you can think of.
the only thing that they can do in the group is take it down for solicitation. Okay, but other than that, post it in the group. I'm actually going to those guys now
Well,
and
a lot of
posting.
the guys that you see come through these chats, a lot of them are admin in different groups and stuff like that.
True.
So I don't foresee stuff like that happening.
What's it up to now? How's it doing?
I think it's at 1550.
I got 1550
Yeah.
Should be higher than that.
and 14 people just donated. So we're
Because I,
starting to see some results.
donated again. I'm anonymous plus me.
The only problem with that, Matt, is it's the same old junk parts they fixing. They ain't putting anything new in there.
Listen, every little bit helps. Plain and simple.
Because I didn't want to be outdone by Loretta
I see.
Alcalay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Paul.
You didn't want to be outdone by Loretta. That's understandable,
Big
Paul.
car money right now.
Now that speaks volumes too. If you don't know who Loretta is, Loretta Alcalay is former FAA attorney, and she's putting in money to this. So she's already seeing this is a real problem, and we need to combat this. That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Paul, let her
Agreed.
lead. Paul, don't beat her. Paul, let her lead.
Well, we're tied right now. Do I need
So now, Paul, you need to hit her. Say, I'll raise you
Take her out.
another. If
Yeah.
you, I'll raise you whatever,
Yeah.
and see if she
Call you.
responds.
Paul
And
said,
see if she responds. Seriously. You know what? I'm gonna put this. What? No, I'm not gonna put. You know what? The hell with it. I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in 5 Borough.
Yeah, why not?
I'm posting it in 5 Borough right now. And hopefully,
Xavier's gonna take a donation. I bet you watch.
see.
Hey, John Spizzo.
It's drone pilot.
You got it, Lawrence? You got him?
Yep. Yep, got it. Yes, sir.
All right. So now I don't have to do it.
Posted in Fireborough. Those guys, I put in drone footage group. Let's see what happens. Seriously, you know.
What happened?
Let's see. Let's see what happens with this.
Yeah, I upped it. See if it comes up.
Paul, just write the check, Paul.
I see you're 200. Raise you another 50. Come on, baby.
I told you, Uncle Paul, go for it.
That's how you do it, Paul. That's exactly how you do it. We got like
this is something that's bigger than all of us.
Yes.
Because it will change the future of droning
Like just said,
for future generations.
They're gonna cramp your style, and you definitely 107.
Mm-hmm. Roger Martin, Justin Adams, Paul Murray, Metro Drones. See, it's working. Patrick Barlow, I don't know who that is.
And we're at 16.5, so it is coming in.
People believe in the cause. It's at 1660 now.
Okay.
I just wish we had bigger channels to do this on.
Is it showing my raise?
It shows. Wait a minute. It shows 5 minutes ago. What you did.
No, it should be just right away.
Hold on. No, it hasn't clicked in yet.
Refresh. Yeah.
17 people just donated. Let's see if I click again. Nope, it hasn't come up yet. It'll probably take a minute. But this is a good thing, Ryan.
Absolutely.
It's happening here.
It is.
Seriously.
And you know what, Ryan? You are the impetus of all of this happening. If you hadn't have brought it out, if you hadn't have brought it out, it wouldn't be out here.
Honestly, this is my passion, right? I want to make sure that drone operating is free and available to everybody.
Everybody that flies safe
and legal,
and does it the right way.
Absolutely.
Not just some kid that goes up to Best Buy and comes out with
Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, Matt.
But I know, Sean, I reached out to him on the Benjamin Dodson case. And, it's these cases that are so important.
Donate to this link
if we don't get
Friday.
If we don't have these resolved, these are going to spread again like wildfire, and it's going to severely limit or curtail our flying opportunities.
Well, it'll spread.
Have that.
Well, listen, on another deal, all my elected officials in the area that I deal with, they know I fly drones. They support me. They're not against me. And I know if I need them, that's the city councilman, Congressman Chucker, that's Nydia Velasquez, the 71 Felix Ortiz, assemblyman. I got a direct link with these guys.
But Ray, we don't have this where Vern and the boys live.
Because you need that. You need that in these cities, in these New York City. You need that.
Yeah, big city, it's all about connections. But small town, it's about who you.
No, but I'm saying if it's come to New York City, that's what I'm just talking about. He's just saying coming to New York City.
Yeah.
Like I'm prepared.
Tim Jackson, there's a link there.
And they know I do it safe, and I've been lobbying with them, and they're not against it, and that's where it starts, right there.
Tim Jackson's trying to donate, but he's driving.
Tim Jackson, don't crash while trying to donate. Go to that link. We need as much as we can get for this gentleman to appeal.
Corey Mano said my raise just popped up.
The wrongful arrest. Hold on, let me see.
1755.
Darren K. Thank you very much. I feel like we're having a marathon, Ryan. We should have started this last week, man.
Right.
It goes to show. It goes to show people do come to these live streams, and every little bit. I
wanted to make sure it got in.
Yep. There's Paul Murray again. Anonymous.
There is Paul Murray
Justin
there.
Adams again. Darren K.
That's right. 4 times, Paul?
No, 3.
No, 3.
Two 200s and a 50.
So
the 12,000 is still going through.
Needs to be this does need to be addressed, and
I can tell you when he does do this appeal,
Darren
like
K,
I said,
any little bit that you give makes that much of a difference.
Go ahead, Ryan. What?
I was going to say, just like I was saying, when he does appeal, I am going down to testify. I am going to be there. So it's going to be on my dime to go down there, and that's another. I've already donated to the campaign as well, but I'm going to donate my time and energy and money to get down to Louisiana.
Well, Ryan, maybe
to
you
be
can
in
put out
testimony.
on some of these channels to have a fly-in when you know the date.
Yeah, you spend
Absolutely. I will be taking multiple drones down there.
Have a fly-in, right?
Yeah.
So next month or in 3 months' time, the fundraiser is for Ryan. He's currently
Bail.
needs bail, and he's in Louisiana. We then need someone to volunteer to go down there and post it.
Right.
And that might be a difficult, because if the stick's the way it works, you probably wouldn't get out of there posting the bail.
Exactly.
Right.
4 minutes left,
As long
guys.
as
3 minutes.
Ryan gets out of there in one piece, everything will be all right.
We could always pay for an airplane ticket and send Sean over there.
There you go.
Right?
Well, I mean,
What would they do with the British invasion?
well, why would you just keep feeding them more people?
More people. Right? But think about it.
As long
If the
as all
town-
of you people are in line ahead of me.
Hey, Paul, if the prison is that small, they'll run out of room sooner or later.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
it
have a
probably-
fly-in in the
It
jailhouse.
would probably break their bank feeding us all.
Well, we appreciate you, Ryan, for coming on. Definitely.
Thank you.
Always
I thank you for having me on.
Exactly. Does
This
Ken
is something
Herron
I
know
was-
about this? It's
Yeah.
He
showing
does.
tomorrow night.
He does.
Ken Herron, he does know about it.
Yeah, I have.
Sean.
Whilst talking, I have been emailing him, so we are in contact.
Okay, very good. Because
That's a good
every
thing.
little bit will freaking help.
So that'd be a great. He's got. If he could take just 10 minutes of his show, or even 5 minutes, and do this to see, let's get how we get this thing rolling on his show. You talk about money coming in. GoFundMe.
Yes.
He has a much larger audience.
Yep.
Very key.
Yes, definitely. And we appreciate everyone for donating, because without you donating, they would be that much further away.
That's
I'm
the
gonna make
power
it-
of those guys.
Well,
Well, that's the power of this community.
the
Actually,
power of the drone community. I
You know.
agree, Herman.
we have
I
a
do
very
agree.
large community, and it's still a growing community. And like Lawrence always says, we have to help each other out. If we don't help each other out, we don't support each other, this community can't grow.
Together we
Right.
float. We single.
Right.
We sing. Yep.
And what's happening to James today could be us tomorrow. So that's why
Exactly.
this is very much key.
Right. If you allow this to happen to one person, you could be next. Somebody's going to be next.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's that simple. You already see what they're trying to do here in New York, guys. You want to be harassed by someone telling you can't fly across the street now?
All right. I'd like to
It's-
thank you for
Yes.
this show tonight, for coming on and let's discuss this issue. It's a very important issue that needs to be discussed. And like I said, we need to get it out through all of the Facebook groups, all of the drone, shows. Let it be known to everyone who has a live stream or does videos that, just to mention something, if they can, even if they have the live stream, they can put the link in just once, to reach more people, the better.
Recovery Drone has a good statement.
It is just now went up to $18.45
Yep.
from $1,500. See what a little bit of help will do?
Yep.
Seriously. So we appreciate all
thank you, Big Matt.
donations. I'm going to make sure I make my donation in the morning. And Ryan, you have to keep us posted on this.
Absolutely.
You
And
ready to end this, Herman?
I
Yeah,
thank you to you guys for allowing me to come on and share this story, because
It was Sean's
important.
idea. It was Geek Spawner idea. He said he wanted to give back to
Yep.
those guys. And we always appreciate anything Sean Geek
Yep.
Spawner does for us. And he was like, well, hey, Lawrence, you want to do it on the show? And I was like, oh, yeah, we can do it. We can do it, sure. And then it was Father's Day. So we instantly moved it over here to Wednesday night. And I think we had just as much success here had we had it on maybe we might not on Sunday night. A lot of fathers were tied up. But I'm glad we did it.
Those ain't real fathers, because Father's Day your own time. Ain't with no wife or nobody. Get about it. You gotta be with them on Father's Day, Mother's Day. You're a herb, yo. Come on, bro. Little hen peck.
But we appreciate
I call him hen peck dude. I send it on your live. Hen peck dude. You gotta give a Father's Day and Father's Day. See ya.
Listen, you say that when you don't have to go home and answer.
I live with one, but like I say, I fly on Father's Day. Nah, bro.
I flew on Father's Day. We flew. We flew on Father's Day.
I'd like to thank you for coming in and discussing this topic with us all.
Father's Day
hanging out tonight.
What happened to the shot and drop? What happened to the shot that dropped like last year?
Yeah, the shot that dropped.
The shot that dropped like last year. You gonna dead Father's Day? Yeah, all right, Al.
He's not moonshining us. Hey, you're right. He's not.
Right, Jess? He stopped the shot that dropped. I thought that was a ritual. What happened?
You've activated right.
You know I got a bottle somewhere.
I know you do.
Anyway,
all right, Herman.
Like I was saying, Wednesday night with those guys is sponsored by
those guys.
Thank
We appreciate you all
for coming in and discussing or hanging out while we discuss this topic. Please, I'd appreciate it if you guys do whatever you can, please, to help out. Tell a friend, please, whatever you can do to help this guy, because
post this link in forums.
It can
post that link.
You next.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for coming. Like once again, and I appreciate you all. For without you, none of this would be possible. And I'll see you next time. Phantom Flight 101 with those guys.